Hello and welcome back to another one of my FPL videos. I of course am the FPL Train, and in this video we're going to be looking at a wildcard team ahead of Game Week 21. Why am I going to be doing a wildcard team? Well, we've all been given the wildcard chip back, so everybody has got the wildcard chip. Those of you who didn't use it beforehand, you haven't got two, you've only got one unfortunately. But yeah, we've all got it, and for some people it's probably the perfect time for that to happen, because obviously we have the African Cup of Nations and the Asia Cup going on now, so some of us might have quite a few players currently out of our teams, and there's certain players that we might have thought would be coming back for injury by now. They didn't come back in the FA Cup, and certain players got injured in the FA Cup, or they could be out a long time, they could be back for Game Week 21, we still don't know yet. But for those people who really need it, it is the perfect time. So let's go through them, the team that I've got on here, and as you can see, starting us off with the goalkeepers. So I've actually decided to go with the two goalkeepers I currently own now. So obviously Dubravka's got Man City at home for Newcastle. Now, Newcastle have been dreadful for quite some time really. They had a horrible December. Hopefully now they can turn it around, but Dubravka himself, just before the FA Cup, obviously he played Liverpool, had an absolutely amazing game, got you 8 points, and it makes you think, you know what, maybe I will just keep him. He's 4.2 million now. I had him when he was 3.9, but he's 4.2 million. He does have a tough game against Man City in 21, so you leave him on the bench for that. Same with Game Week 22 against Villa. Then after that, he's going to have fixtures against Luton, Forest and Bournemouth, which you could favour them to get clean sheets. Obviously, they've just had a good run where they could have kept clean sheets, but they didn't. They've just had a terrible run, really. But I'm expecting Newcastle to finally turn it around at that point. So for now, I would have him because he's cheap, he's starting, and it's just one of those where hopefully down the road he will finally work. Newcastle will work on their defence and they'll start keeping clean sheets again. And for the starting goalkeeper currently right now, it's got to be Areola. He's the man in form right now. He's absolutely smashing it, particularly in the league, where he obviously got the 11 points in Game Week 20 against Brighton, 10 points in 19 against Arsenal, and 8 points against Man United in Game Week 18. And to make it even better, he's got in Game Week 21 Sheffield United. So you expect really to keep another clean sheet there. And in 22 he's got Bournemouth, 23 is Man United, which isn't that tough really on paper because Man United are just shocking when it comes to attacking. So, and obviously he did keep the clean sheet in Game Week 18 against them. So I do think that will happen again. Well, I mean, it has at Old Trafford, it's going to be difficult. But either way, the next two games look pretty decent. And they Bournemouth are in form. For sure, Sheffield United, you'd expect him to keep a clean sheet. He's also just 4.2 million as well, so he's dirt cheap, and he's a keeper in form, so it makes sense to have Areola and Dubravka as your goalkeepers ahead of the next several game weeks. So then with the defenders, first up in here we'll talk about the most heights, probably the most popular pick currently going on right now, and that is of course Trent Alexander-Arnold, 8.5 million. He is a premium player, premium for sure defender. He's been doing absolutely outstanding for Liverpool ever since, well, I'd say Game Week 9 where he's been absolutely smashing it. Now obviously he didn't get any points against Newcastle, but he did get an assist in the FA Cup if you watch that against Arsenal. He looked good against them. Obviously Liverpool don't have Mohamed Salah currently right now, but Trent still looked really good. Now yes, he is expensive and the fixtures aren't exactly the easiest, but you know, he does get assists. It's not about clean sheets, it's about goals and assists for this guy currently right now. And particularly with assists, he's absolutely been smashing it. He is their corner taker, free kick taker, should I say. He's not going to be on penalties, obviously, but like I said, he is their free kick taker, which is also important. And he's got a wonderful cross. And you'd expect, obviously, him to get some more points going forward. Game Week 21, he does have Bournemouth away. Tough fixture, but I do think he can get something there. Same with it being Chelsea at home. He's got Arsenal away in Game Week 23, which obviously I just mentioned he did get obviously the assist in the FA Cup. So I would be not surprised if he got one again in Game Week 23, and on 24 he would also have Burnley at home. So he's got decent fixtures. It's not, you know, outstanding, but a player of his quality, you're still expecting to get a load of points. He is expensive, but obviously with the likes of Son and Salah currently away, it is a good time to bring Trent Alexander-Arnold in your team. Alongside him, Estupinan. I've said that right, haven't I? I've probably said it wrong. I don't know why I keep getting it wrong. But anyways, This guy is an incredible player. He was great at the start of the season. We all absolutely loved him. Got injured. We all did say if he got clean sheets as well with what he was contributing going forward, it'll be outstanding. He's come back, game week 19, got that wonder goal against Spurs after coming on at half time. Then game week 20, he got the clean sheet against West Ham, which is amazing. And now he's back at the perfect time, really. Brighton, I think they have the best run of fixtures coming up. So it's Wolves, Luton, Palace, Spurs is going to be tough. Sheffield United, Everton, Fulham, and then Forest. It is not until game week 29 where you'd look at getting rid of him. So if you get him in now, you've got a great run of fixtures for him. And I do think he's going to smash it. I'm surprised, to be fair, he hasn't gone up in price because he looked good as well in the FA Cup as well. He got something in that game as well as, obviously, it was against low league opposition. But still, he's still going forward. He's still creating problems. And I do think the fixtures look good. And if you're somebody like me who owns a Trippier, it's the perfect time to just swap them over. And I do think he's going to absolutely crush it now ahead of the next few game weeks. We've got Gabriel in there as well. I mean, Arsenal have been a bit disappointing lately. Obviously, they've got the 2 losses against West Ham and obviously Fulham. So, a bit disappointing. They've just been knocked out of the FA Cup as well. You'd think with Crystal Palace at home that they can keep a clean sheet there, as well as Forest away. They still do have the best defence in the league, so that's why I have an Arsenal defender in here. He is one of the cheapest ones there at 5 million. He is a guaranteed pretty much starter majority of the time. It's more of a safe pick, if I'm being honest, so that's why I do have him in there. And Arsenal, they have to bounce back. That's 3 losses in a row now. They can't keep going on like this. If they want to win this league, they've got to go, keep clean sheets and absolutely crush it. So I think he'll be a good shout for game week 21. On the bench, we've got Pedro Porro. The guy just keeps going up in price constantly, man. He's 5.7 now. He scored an absolute worldie in the FA Cup. Well, it was a decent goal. I wouldn't say worldie, actually, but it was a pretty good goal. He's got Man United away in game week 21. Look, if you want to start him for that game, I completely understand because Man United are poor. They are poor. And he could easily absolutely smash it in this game week as well. I'd have no problem if you was to start him because he's incredible. He's looking lively. He'll get you probably a few assists in the next 4 game weeks, that's for sure. He seems to be attracting as well the bonus points, of course. So he's somebody to definitely look at putting into your team. You want to get him in pretty early though because he is rising quite high. It was 5 million, it felt like literally a few weeks ago. Now he's 5.7. He's in incredible form right now. Man United obviously coming up. Then it's Brentford, Everton, Brighton and Wolves. So it's up and down in fixtures. And obviously Spurs have quite a few injuries. But they are buying in players currently as I speak. With the likes of Werner. And I believe they are also signing somebody else from Genoa. Can't remember what was his name. But yeah, they're bringing in quite a few players. Obviously that will be a defender which will strengthen them as well. So Spurs are going for it. You got to say. They are going for it in this window. So they could look good. And then finally I've got Konza. This is more of a safe pick, I'd say. I wanted a cheap defender like I've had, let's say, a Charlie Taylor. A guaranteed starter who might get you the clean sheet. So Konza's 4.6 million. He's got a nice set of fixtures coming up. Aston Villa do have a nice set of fixtures. They've got Everton coming up. Newcastle are in some bad form right now. Sheffield United. Man United are awful attacking. Fulham, Forest, Luton. Looks pretty good for Villa, to be fair. So he's more of a safe pick. He would be that kind of player you'd have on the bench most of the time. Because in terms of attacking returns, you won't get much from him really at all. To be fair, I don't actually think he's got a goal all season. No, he hasn't. He's only got the 1 assist. So yeah, he's literally just a safe pick. Just in case disaster happens, he'll come off the bench and hopefully get you the clean sheet. So that is the defence. Pretty decent, I would have to say. There's not really anybody else out there that I could think of off at the top of my head, should I say, coming in. Because obviously Kieran Trippier, there's no Newcastle defenders. Kieran Trippier has not looked good for quite some time. Chelsea, I mean, they just keep conceding goals. I mean, they've still got 4 out of the 3 games, pretty decent fixtures, but they keep conceding. It's not worth having a Chelsea defender, if I'm being honest. Maybe obviously going for a Man City defender might be worth it. If I was to go for a Man City defender, it would be a Kyle Walker, just because he's a guaranteed starter, because obviously they are so rotational. It's a pain in the bum deciding what defender to go for. But yeah, I feel like that is possibly the best defence really to go for. I mean, you could downgrade certain players like, let's say, a Pora for a Doggy, but really, I think this is definitely the best defence going forward. With the midfielders then, so I actually own 4 of these 5, so that shows you how confident I am in my midfield going forward. But I'd just like to mention the Liverpool midfielders who I haven't put in here. Obviously, Mohamed Salah is going to be a waste, so they need to get goals. And the one guy I'd most like out of any of the midfielders for Liverpool is going to be Diego Jota. Now, he didn't start in the FA Cup game for Liverpool against Arsenal, which might put you off a bit. Maybe he goes for Gakpo going forward on that right side. But when you look at the last 2 games in the Premier League, Jota got 2 assists against Newcastle, and he also got the goal against Burnley. He's obviously been injured beforehand as well, so he's finally fit enough to play. He could play in the middle of a front 3 as well, so he's somebody to really consider going forward. 7.8 million, so he's a little bit pricey. So you could replace him with Foden or Jarrod Bowen in that team. Or you could go for a Luis Diaz, who's quite a bit cheaper at 7.3 million. Somebody he does start majority of the games, but he does come off early. But like I said, with obviously Salah being away, will he get dropped as much? Probably not. But, you know, it's tough to decide what Klopp's going to do, because he could start Darwin, he could bench Darwin. Obviously, he's who is another problem. Szoboszlai is going to be out injured, so those are definitely the 2 players to look at in Jota and Diaz. But apart from that, I'm pretty confident the rest of the midfield looks pretty decent. And obviously, starting off Phil Foden. Man now is 7.9 million. Quite a lot of people are obviously going for him as a possible replacement. I think that 12 points that he got against Sheffield United will obviously help with people's minds there. Obviously, he got the 2 assists and the 3 bonus points in that game. He does play Newcastle away. Now, obviously, Newcastle have been in some terrible form, but it's at St James's Park, so that is not going to be an easy fixture at all. Do I think Man City will score? I do. Do I care if they win or lose? No, I don't. It's going to be all about if Foden gets the points. That's all we're bothered about in terms of attacking FPL. So yeah, tough game. I do think he could get something in that. Burnley at home in 22 is a nice fixture, as is Brentford and Everton coming up as well. So they've got a decent run of fixtures. They could get a possible double game week soon. Obviously, they missed game week 18 with Brentford, so they've still got a game in hand there. So that is also something to take into consideration. But yeah, he's definitely a hot take currently right now. Phil Foden is 7.9 million. He probably will rise again before game week 21 starts to 8 million. So if you want him and you want to get him before the price rise, you have to get in and early on him. But obviously, if you are obviously activating the wildcard chip, or you want to, you should really do it as soon as possible so you don't miss out on any price rises. Obviously, I've got Saka in there. Look, Arsenal are on poor form right now. They're doing poor. He did get, obviously, that goal against Fulham. Didn't do as well against, is it Liverpool? I'm going blank there. Liverpool in the FA Cup. But, you know, I do think he could do some damage against the likes of Crystal Palace and Forest coming up. He is a captaincy considerate for game week 21 as well. I know Arsenal aren't in great form right now, but they're going to bounce back sooner rather than later. I do think that. He's 9 million, so he is quite expensive. Quite highly owned as well, 59.6%. But, you know, I do think he's essential going forward, as is Palmer. As definitely is Palmer. The guy's 5.6 million, which, to be fair, I still think is pretty low. I thought by now he would have hit 6 million. He absolutely had a storming performance against Luton, getting those, obviously, 2 goals and that 1 assist and the 3 bonus points, of course. Nice fixture against Fulham, who do like to leak in goals. Liverpool will be tough in 22, and so will Wolves in 23. But he can score against Wolves, and obviously he could score against Crystal Palace in game week 24. He's definitely a must-have. And Cuckoo, I mean, he's got a hip injury again. Will he be fit for game week 21? Not so sure, but that does mean he will continue to be on penalties if he is going to be out in Cuckoo. So that is something also to add as a bonus for Cole Palmer. I've also got Jarrod Bowen in there. Now, Bowen went off injured right in the last minute. Unbelievable, really, isn't it? He got injured right at the end against Bristol City in the FA Cup. So he's currently flagged up with an ankle injury, 75% chance of playing currently. Now, I've not actually checked if West Ham have revealed anything since. But like I said earlier, with Game Week 21, it's going to go on for 10 days. So 9 days into it is when West Ham will play. They play on the 21st of January against Sheffield United. So he's got quite a lot of time to rest and recover, Jarrod Bowen. So by that point, we'll probably know closer to the time. But obviously, the deadline would have passed by then, so it will be still a gamble. But what I'm saying more is, I do expect him to be fit for Game Week 21 because he's got such a long time to rest. It's like he's got a break now until Game Week 21. So I do think he will play in Game Week 21, where, of course, they play Sheffield United away. Now, it's going to be tougher than you think because the new boss, I was going to say manager, I couldn't get my words out then. The new boss then at Sheffield United, he has got them pretty solid at the back at home. So it's going to be tough for West Ham. And obviously, Bowen, he's not been smashing it, but he just seems to get the goal here and there. So it is worth having him. 8.1 million, quite expensive. But he's got the likes of Sheffield United, Bournemouth and Man United coming up, who do leak in goals here and there. So definitely worth having Bowen in your team. And then I've got Douglas Luiz in there. Now, he's not the most glamorous pick. And yeah, you might want a Liverpool player instead, which I completely understand. Why have I got Douglas Luiz? Well, he's on penalties. That's also a big factor. And he just keeps getting in points, assists. He got 10 points, obviously, against Burnley. He got those 3 bonus points as well as the penalty. Like, obviously, I mentioned, he is on penalties. So, yes, he's 5.6 million. If he plays a bit further forward, so many more people, should I say, will be going for him because he's been pretty decent so far this season. He's got 6 goals and 3 assists so far this season. So he's done pretty well this season. You can't keep ignoring it just because of his price or the fact that he plays possibly a little bit deeper than most of these midfielders. But his fixtures coming up are nice. Everton, Newcastle, Sheffield United, Man United, Fulham, Nottingham Forest and Luton. So Aston Villa are going to have a lot of the ball in most of these games. So they're going to be in the opponent's opposition's half, in their penalty area. So there's a good chance as well they could get the odd penalty in these games, which he will take. And from the sounds of it, well, the way he's going, he will score. So he's definitely worth having in your team. He's 5.6 million. He's an absolute bargain of a player to have on penalties for a team who is trying to get in the top 4. For me, I think it's a must-have, really. Well, not a must-have, but, you know, he is a differential. He's only 9.2% owned right now. I just think he's worth having in your team. And finally then, on to the strikers. First up in here, we've got Ollie Watkins. Now, like I just mentioned from Douglas Luiz, they've got great fixtures. He may be 8.9 million, but I feel like he's pretty close to a must-have right now. He may have not scored since Game Week 17 against Brentford, but he did get those 2 assists against Burnley in Game Week 20, so he's still pretty much a must-have. And with the fixtures coming up, you can't leave him out right now. Now, there is also a shout to have possibly Ivan Toney, but he has just come back off God knows how long he was out for. He's been out since God knows. It's been a while, but he isn't even 1% owned currently right now. He's 7.9 million. And he scored a hat-trick in, what was it, a reserve game or under 21 game. So the guy's still fit. He's going to bang in goals. But he's got a pretty tough start, if I'm not going to lie. So he's got Forest next, game at 21. So he could score there. And then it's Spurs, could score there because they're leaky. Man City seem to leak. Because, you know what, this is Ivan Toney. He could score in any of these games. So Ivan Toney is an interesting shout if you want to go for him instead. And obviously Darwin Núñez or Gakpo for Liverpool, because obviously Mohamed Salah's out and they need goals from somewhere. So those are a few shout-outs there instead of having Ollie Watkins. And the reason why I've been saying this as well is obviously because of my next pick on here, Erling Haaland. Erling Haaland wasn't even on the bench in the FA Cup against Huddersfield, which did probably surprise quite a few of us. It surprised me myself. To be honest, I did think he'll be on the bench. Now, for my team, I'm not going to lie, I'm not going to put Erling Haaland in for Game Week 21 just because I am not confident at all that he'll be playing in the game against Newcastle. Unlike, obviously, West Ham and the likes of Brighton, he is going to be playing this Saturday on the 13th, so his fixture is a lot closer than the others. He might be on the bench against Newcastle, but look, I don't think he's going to start. And I just don't think it's worth it, 13.9 million to have a guy on the bench like that. So I would hold off for Game Week 22 for Erling Haaland. which isn't until the 31st of January, which will give us plenty of time and him plenty of time to rest and recover. So for me, I'd ignore him for now, but I've got him in this team anyway, just because I know a lot of people look at him. But if you don't want him, I've mentioned some players there before that you could bring in instead, likes of Tony, maybe even obviously Julio Alvarez as well. I mean, a lot of people probably already have him in their teams anyway, so yes, you could have him. Darwin Núñez, like I said, Tony. I wouldn't probably go for one of the Newcastle guys, if I'm being honest. You just don't know who's going to start ahead. Is it Isak? Is it going to be Wilson? We still don't know there. So that will probably be about it. You could go for a Chelsea striker in Borja, however you say it. I've said it wrong. I know I have. But, you know, I don't think he's going to get any goals, if I'm being honest. So that would probably be it, really. I wouldn't go for an Arsenal guy because they just can't seem to score to save their lives. But anyways, my final pick is Pedro of Brighton. Now, he has started the last, was it 2 or 3 games now? For 3 games for Brighton in the league. 90 minutes. Absolutely been bossing it. Smashed it again in the FA Cup. Smashed it against Spurs in game week 19 where he got a couple of goals and an assist. He is the striker in form right now for Brighton particularly. I mean, if you want to go for Evan Ferguson, I completely understand that as well because, you know, the fixtures are that good, obviously, for Brighton. But more importantly as well, Pedro is their penalty taker, which is huge. So, Wolves, Luton, Crystal Palace, Spurs, Sheffield United, Everton, Fulham and Forest coming up. That is such a good run of fixtures. I think you need Pedro up front for these fixtures. He is the guy to go for. Now, I'm not mentioning him, but I'll mention him now then. So Dominic Solanke is not in this team. He is somebody everybody keeps bringing in currently right now. And look, I completely understand. He's been absolutely smashing it recently. I know he did blank obviously against Spurs, but he had 9 shots against them, absolutely smashed it. And his fixtures going forward aren't exactly the worst. Yes, Liverpool, West Ham coming up. Forest will be tough, well, but I do think he could score there. Fulham will be a nice fixture. Then it's Newcastle and Man City. But then he's got a good run of fixtures from game week 27 onwards. So if it was me, personally, and I was wildcarding, I wouldn't have Solanke in my team. I would leave him out and I'll bring him into my team in game week 27 when he gets Burnley, Sheffield United, Wolves, Everton, Crystal Palace and Luton. So that is why Solanke is not in this team. And that is why I put Pedro in ahead. It's just better fixtures. He's in form as well. And yeah, that is the team that I've put up for game week 21 as a possible wildcard team. Great team going forward. Obviously, slight injuries with Bone. I didn't mention, obviously, Kevin De Bruyne. Obviously, he came back for the Huddersfield game, unlike, obviously, Haaland. He is somebody to, obviously, consider going forward. I'm not so sure about his minutes, if I'm being honest. I think Pep might ease him into it. But yeah, he's definitely somebody to get in the team. Obviously, he got assists pretty much straight away for Man City on his return. So he's definitely a shout out as well. But anyways, that is it for this video. That is the wildcard team that I am bringing forward. This is a team that I do think will do pretty well. But like I mentioned, there are other players out there who could get into this team that will do exceptionally well as well. Let me know what you think of this team. Let me know if you're going to be wildcarding or not. Don't forget as well to like this video, hit subscribe, and I'll see you all on the next one.